Harry, Jim, and Jervin's book club, chapter 3 of Zahara teaches what is love. And this particular chapter is how does thought work? In teaching young people, one of the major concepts of breakthrough for the African mind is the understanding of thought. And it became the pivot to releasing hundreds and hundreds of people of Africa mind about the understanding of the three principles. Because at the beginning, it was very obvious that the African people understood about God. God is great. God loves you. And when I would ask them a question, they would always answer it from God. And I would say to them, that's great. It's true, but it's church. The three principles, you have to talk about God and thought. And so I began my journey of looking at how to explain how thought works and what is the principle of thought as taught by our teacher, Sydney Banks. And the people revealed the metaphor that they liked to hear, what they could catch right away. And it was the principle of this chapter about thought being a paintbrush. So it's a metaphor that explains the elevation of your understanding of church to me. The connection between God and the connection with Harry, my biggest question in life. And it turned out, because the people of Africa are very spiritually oriented, the moment they caught the additional learning of thought, they automatically connected their own happiness to God. And so this became over and over again. And this particular metaphor that thought is a paintbrush was the major beginning teachings I had with almost everyone. And almost every African could pick it up very, very quickly. What's interesting about it is not my metaphor. It's not what I experienced. My experience was that thought is a boomerang. But when I tried to explain that to the people of Africa, Mark, they didn't know what a boomerang was. So it wasn't a good metaphor. It didn't relate to their mind. But the paintbrush that was taught by Sydney Banks, our teacher, it was his metaphor that he used quite a bit. He used many metaphors, by the way, but this was his particular metaphor that I could relate to. So I never experienced thought as a paintbrush, but as a teacher, I saw that the student in Africa liked it. They could understand it. And so when I wanted to write this particular chapter about thought, including it in this book for the younger kids and for older people as well, this became a natural and easy way to teach it. And so it became a pivot to the book, and it also was, in a way, what Jim talked about last week. Truth can only be spoken as a metaphor. So it's a visual image of how thought works, and it also, the way Sid meant it, he related it to thought and feeling and psychological. But recently I have started to see what he was also alluding to was that God hates inside yourself out your picture, and you participate with how God paints. So rather than I control or dominate or actually even make things happen, I see it more now like God is the painter and I am adding aspects to the painting that make the painting come more and more alive in me and in the way that God is designing and painting. I used to think that God designs everything perfectly, correct. But actually now I see God is actually painting this picture that we are creating right now is from God. But without the understanding of thought, I'm left out of the picture. With the understanding of thought, I am participating with the truth. So with that small introduction, Jim, you could say a few words.
Well, that was a great extension, Harry, using God as a painter, creating with God as a painter. And don't let us forget the word mind. Mind is, the three principles as articulated by Sydney Banks are mind, consciousness, and thought. And then as mind, the description of mind is revealed, we realize that mind is another word for God. But we tend to build our reactions to the painting, and then we get stuck, and the painting stops growing, and we stop growing because the painting is ever changing. Now we're getting into, like, don't ask me to explain that, but that's what I see. There is a part in the book, a little piece that flips by real fast, and I'm not sure if it's something that might be slightly altered or not, but there's a page in when it gets started talking about thought and feelings, and it describes, if you have the following thoughts, this is me, we'll hear it when we listen to the tape, but if you have the following thoughts such as jealousy, anger, hatred, and insecurity, and I've missed this, the number of times that I've read that, I've continued to miss it until this morning. Is jealousy a thought? Is anger a thought? Is joy a thought? I see them as feelings. So I see there's a slight thing that we just accept it. Our thoughts, like, hate. I don't see hate as a thought. I see hate as a result of a thought. I see love as a result of allowing it to be a thought or thoughts. That's a small little point that we gloss over and doesn't matter. On the intellectual side, it seems to, but that, there is that our thoughts, feelings, our feelings, thoughts, and I believe at the end of the chapter, the last question is something like that: our feelings, thoughts. And then what would the answer be? To me, the answer would be feelings are the result of thoughts. There's kind of a timeline there, kind of a cause and effect there. That's what I've been understanding about the power of thought. It's a cause and effect kind of thing. So how do I feel and what am I thinking? That's been one of my personal rules for decades. If I feel upset, then I look at my thoughts and it's those damn taxes, or it's that bloody Trump, or it's some other thing, or it's that beautiful thing, whatever, and the resulting feeling. So there's that, and what we're learning about the power of thought is to check what we're doing with thought. It's an inexplicable power. It has to have the metaphors to try to explain thought. You know, here's what ties me up again. If thought creates the feelings, then what we've got to do is change the thought. And that all makes sense intellectually, and it feels right to me too. But what I've detected from Sydney Banks is that there's a deeper place before thought, which we use but don't know about. And that is when we've grown in consciousness to an extent that we stop creating negative feelings before we have the negative thoughts. And they just don't come anymore. We can work on them and bring them in. We can try to think negatively and succeed. But if we're just living and we've grown in consciousness, then certain triggers that used to bother us, sometimes they even enhance us, because those triggers are not pulled, and we don't know we're doing it, but we are doing it. It's a gift that we get. We've got the gift of thought, and then we get the gift of even deeper before thought.
Good, Jim. And Jervin, could you say a little bit about thought as well before, and how you have seen this particular chapter be useful for the students, etc.?
Hello everyone. I hope that I'm very audible.
Very good, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thanks for the floor. On our side, when we talk about thoughts, actually thought plays an important role in our well-being, because the way that our feelings relate to our thoughts. So as we have these positive thoughts, we believe that we can also have positive feelings. So the negative feelings come from our thoughts. So when we have these thoughts which are negative, then they are going to impact even our feelings. So what do we do when we are having these negative thoughts? We only have to make sure that we learn how to let go of these negative thoughts in order for us to have positive feelings, because everything starts from our thoughts. And this chapter has really been amazing, especially to the students in the school, when they learn about how to use their thoughts in order to create the kind of feelings that they want for themselves. Because sometimes you could find the students coming to the classroom, and when they're in the classroom, instead of being focused in the classroom, putting their mind in the classroom, but they're having their thoughts at home, thinking about something else. And what they are thinking, these thoughts are negative. So you find that even the thoughts that they're having, which are negative, are also having a negative impact on their feelings at school, and also which lead to them having also a poor performance in the classroom. But when they understand about the role of thoughts, so this helps them to know how to manage themselves, their feelings and their thoughts, in order for them to perform properly in the classroom. So that's how this chapter relates to the well-being and also the performance of the students in the classroom, and also on the usage of their thoughts.
Beautiful. Thank you. So everything that has been said, I tried to get it written in a metaphor or a visual image that the younger students and older students could grasp. And So so we have all these words which are needed to often explain thought. And then we have what this chapter is doing, which is, to be honest, a insight, a feeling before you are thinking.
Part 3. How does thought work? Zahara wanted to teach her students about thought. She told the kids that if they understood about thought, they would be happy and understand about love. She learned this from listening to an audio by Sydney Banks. Thought is like a paintbrush. If you dip the paintbrush into the color black, that is the color that will be on the painting. Zahara said this is the same with thought. If you take a dark thought, such as anger, sadness, jealousy, or disappointment, this is the feeling that is created. If you change the color, the painting or the feeling will be beautiful. She said the trick is to let go of negative thoughts, and then automatically the feeling changes from sadness to happiness. One of the students said that was not true. She feels that the other students are smarter and have more friends than her. Ah, Miss Zahara laughed. She said that in grade 2, she felt the same. For most of the year, she felt inferior to almost all the students. They were smarter, richer, nicer looking, had more friends, and were simply better than her. Whoever she compared herself to, she felt inferior or not as good as they were. In fact, she was envious of all of them. Then one day, almost by accident, she saw the truth. She had been lying to herself. She was coloring herself as not equal or inferior. For some reason, she realized she was fine being Zahara. She liked being Zahara, and that changed her attitude towards everything. The color of her thoughts were, I like Zahara, versus before, I do not like Zahara, and I wish I were more like another student. Life became easier then. She had stopped comparing herself to others. Zahara put her loving eyes into the student's eyes and said, You are so talented, so loving, and I want you to know that I consider you one of the best students in this classroom. The girl beamed with delight. After telling the story to the young students, she asked the following questions and had a wonderful discussion with the questioning students. Question 1. How is thought like a paintbrush? Question 2. When you have a sad thought, what color is it? When you have a happy thought, what color is it? Question 3. What feeling was the thought when the girl felt the other students were smarter and have more friends than her? Question 4. Is it good to have a positive feeling about yourself? Question 5. Does a thought create a feeling? She assigned her students the following homework. Draw a picture of you thinking a sad thought. Below it, draw a picture of you thinking a happy thought.
That was how we came up with it, and beautifully read by Jim. I like the idea of following with the digital I thought that actually was a nice addition to,
I agree.
yeah, it centers the people's minds and at the same time shows the relationship.
Yeah.
Just for interest, Jervin, I got that idea from my daughter, who's a grade 2 to grade 4 teacher. And when she has a lot of students where English is not very is not their first language. So she puts the book in front of them, not this book, but a book in front of, and does the audio at the same time. And the students get to read along at the same time as they are hearing the two. And I actually thought that was quite a good idea. So so we are now going to look at the questions. This seems to be our format. And by the way, anybody is free to say anything. When we say it's Harry, Jim, and Jervin's book club, we just mean it's everybody's book club. So feel free to ask a question or voice a comment or so to it. So let me go back here. So Jim, as one of the experts on how thought is like a paintbrush, how is thought like a paintbrush?
Well, it's all we have to recognize humanity, to recognize life. Is our thoughts, really. That's how, we all have an individual view of what's going on in the room right now. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people are in this room. We're all looking at a screen rather, and it may not be the same one I'm looking at, depending on whether you're on, gallery view or speaker view or that. So that alone changes the reality if somebody is on a different view. But even when we're all on the same view, we are seeing this picture uniquely. And what's making it unique is that it is created by our own individual thoughts. What we choose to recognize, what we choose to see. When I mentioned the thing about the thoughts and the feelings, for example, I had read that, I'd read that, what, 40 or 50 times? And I'd never thought twice about whether a feeling is a thought or is created by a thought, or whether that makes any difference. Then in that instance that I woke up to that a little bit of a nuance, that I began to see a new picture. I created a new picture for me. And perhaps talking, I may have influenced other pictures, but they're all done by whoever is influenced or whoever creates their own feelings, their own worlds. So thought is, it is how we are unique. We are not in the same world. We are sharing our realities right now, but we're not really in the same reality. We are creating our own realities with our thoughts.
Yeah.
Like,
and one of the things that I have noticed that is why this particular metaphor is so effective, Jim, is because many times, almost all times that a new student comes to me, they believe their past experiences and the outside experiences are the cause of their feeling.
yeah,
And when and so they bring that belief with them, and that interferes with their feeling towards God.
sure.
And then when they see that actually it's the paintbrush that is which is the metaphor for thought here, which is creating their feeling, and that if they change the color from black to white or green or yellow, they see for the first time that they have a misconcept. and that concept allows them to fundamentally cover a lot of the teaching of 3P, that your feeling in the moment is alive and positive unless you paint it black with your thinking. And so they push away that they come from a war-torn zone. They push away that other person who insulted them is the cause of their negative feeling. And they see directly that they are the painter and they are the one who chooses the color that they are going to see and feel. And that's what is powerful about that is psychologically true. But what Jim and I and Jervin and Mark and Patty and Hassan have noticed is that it also brings in a spiritual understanding. And I love that. We're not just talking about, okay, you got a bad feeling and you'll get a good feeling. We're actually saying good feelings, positive feelings are the pathway to God. So it connects thought, God, Harry, the Trinity of life.
It is like a paintbrush. On this one, I'd say like it's when for example as for us in the area where we are, when we are still new in this place, we all come from where we come and we have our own experiences of life. And when we reach in these new places, so many of us keep the same thoughts and beliefs that they came with from where they came from. And you'll find people feeling that the place where they are right now is not really a good place, because many people come with that thought already in them. They create it in them as the painter. They already paint this place as black, as it is a negative place to be. So that's when you find many people, when they reach here, they fail to adapt themselves to the life of this place, because that is what's already in their thoughts. So all they see is negativity. So they don't look beyond their own thoughts to see that there is anything positive that can come out of this place. So it takes some time for these people to come to understand that it's all coming from our own thoughts. We are the ones painting this place as a place which is full of negativity. But when we change our mind, our thoughts, we think positively about this place, we can really do something and achieve something. And actually, as far as I can remember, a few years when I reached here, actually, this place was still more backward than it is today. I reached here like 6 to 7 years ago, and the place was very backward because all the people had kind of the same mindset, the same thoughts. We all thought that this place can really never change. Nothing good can come out of this place. But as years passed by, when we understood the situation and tried to change our thoughts and tried to see positivity, actually the place has changed and everything seems to be going well, because people first understand that all the negativity we are seeing in this place is coming from our thoughts. So we need to change our thoughts. We need to change our perspectives about this place, and then we can see how we can survive in this place. So many people came here and they ran away because they did not want to change their thoughts. All they saw was just negativity. But today people have understood, and now I can say that people can really adapt themselves slowly by slowly, and life is getting better. So that is one thing that I can share, which is really important about understanding how our thoughts can be like a paintbrush. So we just need to know how to paint our thoughts.
Beautiful.
I think we need to know we are the painter. that we are the painter. We are the ones in charge of that paintbrush. That's the consciousness raising part of this. You can do something about it. We are not victims. We are not, blown and buffeted around by all the outside with with the feeling of helplessness. We do have power, and that is the power of the paintbrush, the power to create. And as we realize this is an incredible jump in consciousness. This is what says we don't have to be unhappy. This is what says we have the power of happiness. This is the power that the world is looking for, individual by individual. And we are some of the lucky ones that are finding it. A good friend of mine, long ago deceased, a nurse, was working in this large hospital, and it was chaotic. Her and her co-worker were working with 700 patients in terms of infection control, and it was you run from one place to the other. You got to hurry up. Everybody's behind schedule. There's so many lives to save. It's all so important, and lots of times there's backbiting between the nurses. There's competition going on. There's a sense of insecurity, a sense of mistrust, etc. And she was lucky enough to have a month off of her working place. And a single parent, a tough life, but making it, servicing, And she comes back to work after a month, and as soon as she walked in the hospital, there was a change about the place. Something was different. It was as palpable as, as the floor we were walking on. What happened here? Did they all get a raise? Everybody's happy. Everybody's smiling. Everybody seems to be enjoying themselves. Did that old battle axe get fired? The one that was causing all the trouble? Something big has gone on here. In fact, she saw nurses singing to the patients, having a good time. The intubated patients, the ones with tubes going in to feed them or put their medication. She couldn't believe it. As soon as she saw her friend, mid-morning, let's go for coffee. She gets her alone for coffee and says, "What the hell is going on around this place? What happened while I was gone?" And the coworker, almost ashamed, she said, "Well, we've just been learning how not to use our thinking against ourselves." That's like taking that paintbrush and painting it all over everything, and not knowing you're doing it and realizing, oh, I can paint the happy color here. I can put the beautiful sunset here. I can put the beautiful baby right there. You know what I mean, guys? Don't use our thinking against ourselves. That's what we're all doing. And when we learn that, we grow in consciousness. It will have to be learned, not in the words, but it has to be learned in the moment, in the insight. But even, you get the words, you see it, the memory can be there for you. It can pop out in your head at any time after that when it's right.
That's how you change a person and how you change a community.
And yourself.
Yeah,
Yourself first.
Yeah, always. That's what I meant by a person.
I know.
Yeah. So when people are having problems with alcohol, what they're doing is they're all agreeing that they have a big problem, and they're all discussing the big problem. And they have come to accept that as a truth. This is what our teacher called a belief. Truth doesn't change, but beliefs change. Individual truth changes. And then one of the person who is drinking too much says to themselves, maybe that's not true what everybody is saying. And then what Jim is alluding to is it must come from the person understanding that it comes from them. And I say you cannot change an alcohol, Jim, until you make a step forward yourself, which I call intent. If you do not show intent, there will be no change in the person. They will understand the theory of the thought creates a feeling, but they will not understand that they must take a step forward to and then God says, that thought, you have let me know that I'm ready to learn more. I'm ready to see what Jim calls a higher level of consciousness. I'm ready to look at life anew. And I'm ready to leave the old color of black behind and see life with a new color. And as simple as that sounds, I once asked Jim, a person who was addicted to cocaine, how did you change? Why did you change and drop the cocaine? And she said something so profound. She said, when I found a better feeling than the cocaine, that is where I went. And that is our answer to you. If you paint a different color, you will find a better feeling than your bad habit. And that is a beautiful, simple answer to every problem in the universe. Every problem. Anyway, moving along. When you have a sad thought, what color is it? When you have a happy thought, what color is it? Either Jerwin, or Jim.
Let's call a sad thought blue.
Okay, good at, yeah. And that is
I
actually
got the blues.
I got the blues. Oh, life is so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you notice when you sing the blues, a new feeling comes in. A deeper feeling. I love the blues. I love the blues music.
Sure.
They're not pretending that life sometimes isn't bitter. They're not pretending that they don't feel sad. When my father died, I was sad. When my best friend died, I was sad. But I didn't let that color drown me, cover my heart up, that I wasn't allowed to learn about the color blue. I also found a freedom by acknowledging the color, but not drowning in the color. And the way I see that is there are things that happen to us that bring happiness mostly, but sadness as well. And when we accept it without thinking about it, what happens is we've learned about all these different aspects of who we are as human beings. I am sad. I am happy. I get discouraged. I love optimism. And with the three principles, I see I have the freedom to pick what color I like the most. And I like happy more than sad. And there's a reason for that. When I'm happy, it seems like life goes along a little easier. And I like that. When I'm happy, I'm in balance with God and Harry together. When I'm sad, I seem to indulge a little bit more in poor Harry, poor Harry. And it grows. But with the three principles, you understand just my thinking. But there are sad events that happen, like the death of my best friend. I had never experienced that. But what I saw was there was a healing in that. I also saw that if I started to think about how sad I was, guess what color I created? Blue. More and more blue. Okay, we'll go on to the next. What feeling was the thought when the girl felt the other students were smarter and have more fun than her, Jim? This comes from my daughter. Again, my daughter who's a teacher. She says one of the biggest problems is that the students compare themselves to other students.
Are you asking for a color?
I'm asking for a comment about what feeling was the thought when the girl felt the other students were smarter and have
Sure.
more friends.
Yeah, I thought about that. One of the feelings is jealousy. Another of the feelings could be inadequacy. Sometimes we may choose resentment. We have as many different reactions as we have souls, really, but it will be in that neighborhood. It'll be that coloring. That's that's what we gain from comparing. Nothing.
Well, we and the other, as us as students with Sydney Banks, we were always comparing ourselves to the people who were higher level than ourselves or lower level than ourselves. We were doing a
Sure.
lot of that.
Yeah. Well, not productive.
No, it was actually very destructive.
Yeah.
And it always made us feel insecure.
Hmm.
One of the hardest feelings, the biggest growing, was being in the presence of Sydney Banks. There were times when you were busy with your insecurity and you would hear nothing that he would say or share.
Sure.
And there were other times when you were just hanging out as an equal and participating with the energy, and the feeling would come in. It was always being offered by Sid. But if my mind was busy with I have problems, or I am not high enough, or I am not worthy, or something else, I would get nothing.
Mm.
And yet, when I was in the company of Sid, just hanging out as a guy, I would allow Sid to teach in his own free way without interfering with it. There's a natural flow to life. Mark, can you talk a little bit about that?
I'd love to. What I remember, on the island was, another aspect of comparing yourself and wanting what you see other people have, their growth. You're wanting growth before you're taking yourself out of this beautiful, peaceful, blessed space where you're just happy with what you're doing, and you lose your gratitude. You lose this beautiful feeling of gratitude, and then you're sort of wandering, you might say, into the desert. You've wandered away from your peace of mind, and you're occupying yourself with these thoughts of wanting what other people have, thinking that you should be there too. And you're getting ahead of yourself, like you say, and that's
Taking
right
yourself
on.
out of what is actually happening
Yeah,
with and not interfering with it with da 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 type
Yeah.
of thing.
Your insecure thinking. I remember my insecure thinking would come in a lot in the presence of Sid because I felt so, I didn't know who I was in the presence of this peaceful mind, this person who had found such peace, just a person, but who had found such peace and feeling, such a feeling. And then here I was, I didn't know who I was really. All I knew was I felt it was, it was something beyond me. And yet it is me, you know. I was going to say one thing about Jim's reference to, I totally agree with Jim about, I think, Harry, about, a thought creates a feeling and the feelings of jealousy and anger and so forth. But, we all know that that's made up of thoughts, that's what creates those. And the going beyond thought reference, I think that what can help so many people is not just just a thought that we can use thinking differently, kind of like a tool. There is a benefit to that even, seeing that. And it will bring us peace of mind. But I was thinking that from my experience, I had a direct experience, a shift after I reached that point of letting go of the old negative thinking and having enough of it and not wanting it anymore in my life, just wanting to embrace a feeling more, being open to it. And I went to that place where you feel the pure spiritual energy. You feel this thing. What happened? What? Sorry.
No, it's good, Mark. Everything is good.
I'll,
No, you're good. Just keep
Oh.
talking.
I think, okay, I'll keep talking anyway.
Yeah.
I'll go down to Zoom, clear the screen there. Somebody's trying to get me. Was that, you have this pure, beautiful feeling, this incredible feeling of pure love and pure spiritual energy. And that can't be experienced by us unless we're using original thought. I think what we're talking, when we talk about beyond thought, we're talking about such a pure thought, such a pure thought that it's in the realm of original thought. And you realize that there's original consciousness is in there and original thought and original mind. It's all in there with this pure spiritual energy. And then you realize that you are a divine conscious state. You feel it. That's what it comes down to. And you come back into physical form, but you realize you can use your personal thinking the way you want in this physical form. And that's the connection. If we realize, I hope I'm not going on too much, but if you can realize that your use of the personal thinking and your gift of being this person is a blessing and a gift from the divine, and all you have to do is get out of the way. I'm trying to get back to the feeling of it, and
I think you did a
Yeah.
good job of that, Mark. I really do. That was beautiful, very beautiful. Emmanuel, what do you think about what Mark just shared? If you are there. Maybe not. Okay.
Harry, one more thing.
Just
Sure.
go ahead, Emmanuel.
Actually, my connection was poor the day, and I was not following 100%. So you can answer the question, please.
You don't have to understand. You just have to pick up the feeling, and that will take you to the understanding when you are ready to hear it. We are all in the same boat. We all don't understand everything about God, human being, etc. But when Mark is sharing a feeling, he means it. He is trying to describe something that is indescribable. Thought is invisible on one level. We don't see thought. Yet, if we understand it is a tool of God, and it is our tool to create our feeling, to paint our picture, we understand that we can paint a different picture than the one we are experiencing. And that changes the game. It's a game changer, because it means that the past and the outside circumstances and the fact that you are in Africa and I am in Canada does not dictate the smile on my face. The smile comes from, in my case, quieting this down. And the quieter I do it, so when Mark or Jim is sharing, I can hear their words. But if I can hear the feeling behind the words, I calm down, Emmanuel. I calm down. Where before I'm interpreting through a filter what Mark and Jim and Jervin are sharing. And so when Jervin shares about the practicality of teaching in the classroom, and Mark talks about his spiritual identity, it's the same feeling. It's just sharing in the way Mark has experienced it, Jim has experienced it, and you experience it. There's nothing to understand. Just relax, enjoy, and take in whatever comes in. And then get curious. Oh, this is interesting. I never really thought of it that way. And this thought thing, can it be that I am creating everything that I am feeling through my thinking? Oh my God, not my thinking is the cause of my miserable. And so you just pick up a feeling. Does
Okay,
that make sense? Go ahead. Go
I got a
ahead, Jim.
story. I got a story for you. I'm trying to figure out the importance of it, or how it's going to help us. But we got new appliances this week, a new washer
Oh.
and dryer, the best equipment I've ever owned. And so you're going over a lot of years and a lot of washing machines, and these things are great. We got them from Costco. They had to be delivered on a certain window, because we live on an island. And so I started the day before to get the laundry room ready, and I took the old dryer out first. It's the way it had to work, and so I had space to get back and I shut off the valves of the water going into the washing machine, because that's critical, And then I did the disconnect, and I pulled off the cold water, and there was no problem, and I pulled off the hot water, and I had a gusher. It wasn't just a little bit, it was a full bore coming out into this room that had no drain in it, quickly covering the floor with water. And guess what? The thought machine, you know what panic is? I was in panic. The thoughts were coming as fast as that water was shooting. And I grabbed the hose right away, and I jammed it to try to, put it back on. Well, the thing is, it was hot water, and it was so hot, it was scalding my hands, and I had to let it go. And I started out with the F word, any words you can think of. Help, why me? What the hell is going on here? Blood pressure's out of off the roof. I'm running to the bathroom. I'm turning off all the knobs where the hot water tank is, disable that. Nothing's helping. Now it's running into the bedroom. My wife is pulling towels out. We're screaming at each other. We're throwing towels down, tried to mop up this stuff. I run outside. There's a trap outside in the yard. You can pull that lever and you go down, and there's two lines going there with valves in them. And I don't know which one is going to my house and which one is going to the other one, but I took a shot. I turned that valve and the water stopped. And then it was a kind of an extended recovery mode. At least we stopped that. Now what are we going to do? We got no water in the house. How are we gonna survive till this guy comes and we hook up the new one? We're gonna have to have at least one new tap, maybe two. Now it's a plumber. Oh my God! You know, it's total exhaustion. Total into what color was I using? How many blues and blacks can you mix? Was I in my high mode? Was I in my tranquil mode? Was I in my great space? Was I in my awareness of my level of consciousness? It was like, you know, stormtroopers had come in and just slapped me around, you know. But, you know, there was more to it. I had to get a plug. You couldn't, you know, to put on that tap. I couldn't take the, you know, the tap off. It was too much, etc. But we finally got it cooled. We turned off the hot water tank electricity. We turned on all the hot water taps and drained hot water as fast as we could. And this little plastic plug is the only thing I can buy down at the hardware. There it is somewhere in there. And it says, the guy, when he sold it to me, he says, well, you can't use water over 115 degrees in this thing. Otherwise, it'll blow because plastic, you know. So there I am, prepping this out and putting trying to cool the water down in the tank, keep the tank turned off, get this thing on, put back the lever on. Now we have water and problem solved. And when I woke up the next morning, it was exhaustion and relief. And the big bad boogeyman was gone, and things were going to work out. And you know, the next day the washer and dryer arrived, hooked up without incident. My son came over after work and put in the two new taps that I'd bought, so we're all good. There may be some damage control needed in the sodden cupboard floor, but you know, it was gone. I was relieved. My level of consciousness had grown back to my default state. And when we got that new washer and dryer hooked up and threw a load of laundry in there and discovered what beautiful machines they are, all of a sudden I'm flying. Now, is it because I got a new washing machine that I'm flying? Is it, you know, are there explanations from the outside for all this? There appears to be. But in fact, without the inside growth that I've experienced over my many years, and of course it only takes one thought, but I'll put that in, you know, I learned a lot. I learned again. I learned the awareness of humility.
It's a teaching
It
at the
is.
same time as an
was a gift.
experience.
It was a gift.
It's
It
a
was a
gift.
gift, and there might be a few dollars involved in the repair work from that gift, but in some circles, it's just the tip that they give their therapist. You know what I mean? Financially, it's just ridiculous to try and measure it. I feel lucky I've had the experience. Not only that, this is the second time I've used this story regarding three principles, and it's a winner. So lucky guy.
Yeah, yeah. And so God is painting,
Yeah,
you're participating with the painting,
yeah,
and it's not always what you would expect,
yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you don't control everything. You can, I could have, had I been in my
No, I don't think
highest
so.
of spaces,
You cannot fix everything before everything
but you
happens.
can go to a clear-headed place at certain times, Harry. If it happened again, I've had my rehearsal. I would realize, stay cool, stay calm. You can survive this. But
Maybe.
well, it certainly was a
It sounded more like it required an emergency
it was a sitcom, Harry. It
it
was a
was
big sitcom. There used to be a show on TV, cousins, identical cousin. They weren't identical. They were Harry and Belky, or Larry and Belky, these two ditzes, and their neighboring condo was a couple of hot stewardesses, and these guys were going to sneak in and change their shower head. When they got finished, they had a sledgehammer. The toilets, the water was shooting out of the toilets and all the sinks, and it was just like that. I mean, it is a real laugh when you're not in the middle of it, but it
yeah,
was a
exactly.
sitcom.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys,
So we're alluding to the principle of thought in many different levels of experience. The last question I want to this is an interesting teaching. Does a thought create a feeling? And I wanted to relate something. We have a teacher in 3P. She's retired now, but when she was at her peak, I was talking to her. Her name was Elsie Spittle, and I wrote something about a thought creates a feeling was her insight, and she said it wasn't. Her insight was thought creates feeling. What she's alluding to is spiritual thought creates a spiritual feeling. That is the principle. And the psychological element of a thought creates a feeling. While very, very functional, and indeed shows how the spiritual thought works. She is just saying impersonal thought, God's thought that resonates within me creates this feeling of that Mark was just trying to describe in his spiritual insight moment, his insight, which is growing and growing and growing. So he is growing with this insight that is pure truth. Thought, spiritual thought, without any personal ramifications, when not interfered with, will create God's work. You will paint a beautiful picture. That is amazing. And for each of us, we are learning about that.
I was having one question which is disturbing my thoughts, is disturbing also my thinking. As you are clarifying, and I'm very happy since I'm getting other responses and answers from the questions that I was having through your explanation. And it is really amazing because it is helpful, as I said before. So my question is the following. When you have, can you hear me?
Yes, totally clear.
Totally clear. All right. When you have a positive feeling vis-a-vis to someone or somebody, after having that feeling, the heart of love, the heart of empathy from someone, so behind that love you are presenting to somebody, you are also meeting other people in the community which are talking badly, otherwise they are talking negatively vis-a-vis to the person you are giving that positive love or that positive feeling. So how can you control your feeling to the love you are giving to that person. I don't know if my question is very clear or I can explain it in another way.
Okay, beautiful. Go ahead.
So
ahead,
you
Jim.
you love someone, you are interesting to someone, but other people are telling you that don't love that person. Don't give that person your love. Don't share the positive feeling to that person because he is having such habits, such attitude, such a behavior. So don't give him the feeling or the love you are giving him. He does not deserve it. Whereby yourself, you love the person, yourself, you have a positive thought, positive feeling to that person, but other people behind, they are trying to disconnect you from the person you are giving that feeling. So me, as Emmanuel, how can I control that feeling? How can I remain firm from loving, continue to love that person, continue having the heart of empathy from that person, whereby other people are discouraging me to love him? Thank you.
It's sort of like playing games with love. You don't want to play games with love. You just want it to be straight and simple and straightforward. If you love somebody, um, that's wonderful. If it's somebody that you're thinking of as a special partner, you know, that your girlfriend, your future wife, or somebody like that, that does put it in a special area. You know, but it's unconditional love is what you want. That's the feeling that you want, and you want it for this person, or you're having it for this person, and you want to have it for those who are criticizing as well. It's unconditional in that regard, but you want to be, above all things, true to yourself. And in being true to yourself, you know, it seems, you know, that's your choice to make. I could tell you a choice, but if you do something because I tell you, that's not the way it works. You've got to just understand, I'm giving you the best answer I can give you under the circumstances, and it's up to you to know the situation and make your own choices. But love is good. Unconditional love is good. And there's no reason not to love anybody. It doesn't mean you love all of their behaviors. And if, you know, people have certain behaviors that you can't abide or that your friends can't abide, then you just have to see clearly, and be kind and be loving in whatever choice you make and whatever communications you have regarding that choice. Be the way you want to be the person you want to be. You're not your friends, you are you. So that's the best answer I can give you on that. And it's still going to boil right down to what you do and what you feel and how it works for you and the individuals that are around you. But unconditional love, go to the person, but that does not mean that you put up with ridiculous behavior. You do not necessarily love negative behavior. You don't love negative behavior. That works.
Good. Okay. Mark or Jervin, go ahead, either one of you.
It's about recognizing our true who we really are, our spiritual nature, isn't it, Harry and Jim? We are pure consciousness in this moment, and it's a spiritual thing, and we are the gateway to what, we are filtering what we allow into our presence in this moment, and we need to be faithful and clear, and recognize who we really are. That our spiritual nature and our connection to divine consciousness, isn't it? Really, it comes down to that. But yeah, stay true to ourselves and see the best in other people for sure, even though they're mistaken, misguided, misunderstanding.
And they're not always mistaken and misguided, and
When they are.
other people can actually all suggest that the person is misguided. It doesn't mean that you have to see that. You see what you see. If you look and you see the beauty in that person and everybody sees the negative in that person, walk away from what other people are saying. Don't get caught up in what other people are imaging to you of how you should see. And even though you can't change another person, what Mark and Jim are alluding to is that if you have love in your heart, you'll be open to the love that they have in their heart. And you will also be able to say you did your best to share a positive feeling with the other person. And that's important. The world is all caught up in judgment, analyzation, and blame.
Yeah.
I don't see any answer in any of that stuff. I could tell Jim he is full of what, and get mad at him. But all I'm doing is creating a horrible situation between the two of us. And then I could look at it and say, maybe he has something that he has a point to. Maybe his perspective is different than mine, but maybe I can be open. And the moment I'm open to the other person, I can hear the feeling that he is trying to describe, not the words. Remember, it's not in the words, the feeling. And as far as I can see, everybody loves a positive feeling. They may not acknowledge it, they may fight it, but they all love it.
Yes. Unconditional love is very, very important. That's such word has entered my brain and this encouraged me more to love unconditionally.
Yeah. So with this unconditional love, we are painting a beautiful picture. Thank you, everybody. And God bless.
God bless.
Okay, so wait a sec here. I've got to stop the recording and all that stuff. Let's see. Stop recording.